If this is your first time and you missed once we started talking about Psalms, we've been talking about Psalm 120, so that's been like at least 7 weeks now. So we talked from Psalm 120, and the series is going through Psalm 134. This psalm is called the Psalm of Ascension, the psalm about the story and the journey of the Jews traveling outside of Jerusalem, going to the Holy Land. And just for you to know, these psalms were meant to remind them about the journey. It meant for them to remember them while you're on the road. How many times we start and we forget why we are here and what we are doing. How many times we just become like a habit to go to the church, and we forget to ask ourselves, why do I need to go to the church? What I'm getting from the church? Is it just a habit? And it is a good habit, but if we start to tell ourselves is what I am getting from this service, why I am getting to feed myself this way. So this journey was about to remind themselves that one time when they are on the road, they are not alone. Many of the psalms that you can read as like the sound of sadness. Some psalms you hear the sound of joy and chanting. But on the road, really, we encounter all these feelings. And many of these feelings that we encounter, it's very good to know that you are not alone. It's very hard when you feel, I am feeling sad and I don't want to be the only sad person in the crowd. How many times we do not like to be the killer of the joy, you know? So we keep our own feelings for ourselves. But the reality that we all go through all these feelings. And it's very good to feel like you hurt, me too. You're sad, me too. There is some comfort to know that you are not the only one with this kind of feelings. So when they were walking from this long journey, either they came from wherever in the Middle East to go to Jerusalem, where they were singing this psalm, chanting this psalm, they were actually trying to say to each other, I hear you. Maybe I cannot see you because it's dark at the night, but when you sing this psalm with me, I hear you. And when I hear you, it brings comfort to me. It brings comfort to me to tell myself, I am not alone. Even when the dark comes, I cannot see, but I can hear you. So this psalm is very powerful because they were a story about people that lived in the past. And it could be about you and me today. It's the old story that's still alive. A story of human being who lived far away from the house of the Lord. And they dreamed to make it one time. And in the psalm, we see this wonderful thing about the story that when the writer of the psalm is telling us who is the true builder, who is the true guard of the city, who is doing the true good work in our life. And there are many scholars talking about who wrote this psalm. Some will say David, because he wants to give a warning to Solomon who is going to build the house. So he was actually telling his son, my son, you're going to do an amazing job. The Jewish dream, since we started our religion as Jewish, we dream to build a house to the Lord. That was my dream as your father. But unfortunately, the Lord said, I cannot build it because there is blood in my hand. So lucky you, my son, you're going to get the dream, you're going to get it. So some of the scholars said that was a warning message from David to Solomon, which I will take it has a good meaning. Some other scholars will say it's actually Solomon himself is writing this to himself. Because there is a word there when it's giving his loved one a good sleep. They said the name there is actually one of Solomon's name. So some scholars assume that actually Solomon is writing that for himself. And I see another good lesson from that too. As he achieved this wonderful thing that I am the one who made the dreams of the whole Jewish nation. I am the one who built the house of the Lord. I am the lucky one. I am the great achiever. How many I am in what I said? How many? Did you count? I said many times, I am. What happens when you do that? You get so overconfident. Your ego gets inflated, you know. I am the one, the lucky one. Even my own dad, David, everybody almost worshiped David. He could not even do it. I am the one who got the dream to be done. So there is a very good message. Either it's David sending a fatherly message to his son, warning him, be careful, my son, when you achieve something. Or the other good message that's really Solomon himself was aware that even achieving great things, God saved me from my own self. He's writing this psalm to say, yes, we know that sadness or failure can take you to feel little and you want to be in the corner and you want to be out of the light. But we know also great achievement is very tempting. You are under the light. All the news is writing about you. All the TVs is talking about you. All the social media is talking about you. And God is also warning those who are achieving great things in their life and say, be careful. You are in more dangers than those who feel their life somehow is not successful. Those who achieve something, just be careful. So now is it David or Solomon is giving the credit to those, as I was telling the children, is how many people behind the scene that did not make it to be famous. They not make it to be in facing the camera, but without them will not be here today. And as you do that, you go back and back and back, and then you go back, you find that God is the source of all goodness in our life. When I wonder about my dad or my mom just working very hard to provide what we need for us, when they spend every penny about sending us to school and try to do their best to feed us and make us, and I wonder about they are human, and sometimes they feel sad, and sometimes they feel burned out from what they are doing to their children. And I wonder about the source of love and care that any human can have. And if you track it, you go back to one person after another, you track it to the source, and the source is God. Everybody see the great house of the Lord. Everybody is saying, what an amazing building. But nobody's talking about the foundation that's under the ground. So as we see this wonderful image that the psalmist is telling us, that the house of the Lord was built not because Solomon was great, not because David was an excellent man, but because actually God was behind the scene. And God just used whoever. It doesn't matter the name, if it's David or Solomon or Saul or whomever. God is going to work, and is working regardless. How many times as Christians we did not get the message when we start to blame and said, the Jews did not get it, so that we are the good one. We are the Christian that's got everything. And my warning to you that God did not find us to work according to His need. He will find other people to work for Him. It's not the mistake by the Jews. It's a mistake by all human when they feel like God is mine. And if God did not work with me, God will be run out of business. We are wrong. It's the same mistake will happen regardless if you call Jews or Christian, Presbyterian, Pentecostal, Lutheran. It doesn't matter. God will stay working. God is moving. And we are lucky if we start to listen and understand this is the way God wants to do His work. You are wrong if you think that you are so strong and powerful. God will be in trouble if you stop to work with Him. It's actually the way around. And we are lucky to understand that at one time we heard His voice. And we understand that God is doing an amazing job. There is nothing wrong with the Jews in the Old Testament. The only that God was trying to make them special. But every time we think about you are so special, you are the chosen one, not to keep the light under the basket, not to keep the salt on the sea and not be useless, but to make you shine. So everybody will say, what an amazing small nation. What an amazing man and woman that they have difficult life, but they are still trying to love and care for themselves and for others. How many times as missionaries that we went overseas and we did a lot of wonderful missionaries, and we hold the Bible in one hand and we hold the piece of loaf in the other hand. What a terrible message when we say, no, we love you regardless. We feed you and care for you regardless if you believe in the Bible or not. People will ask us, like, what, you care for me without even applying your agenda? Yes, because this is the Christian message. We do not hold people hostage. If you do not believe what I'm telling you, I'm not going to feed you. If you do not believe what I'm teaching you, we're not going to give you what you need. This is not the Christian message. The Christian message is to love, to care regardless. And what a wonderful thing when people knock on you and say, why do you care? Why do you spend and put the efforts and the money and the time? Why do you leave your first world land that was all the loving and easy and you go and come to our third world there? This is the good question when people start to ask you, because that's not normal. That's not normal. And what makes us in this way is the Christian faith. That one day I was saved this way. Every time when we sing Amazing Grace, it's just, yes, that's simple. It's like one day I felt myself I was worthless. And a guy just knocked on me and said, you are. I was so down and somebody said, you actually have a chance. When I was thinking of myself, I do not deserve any chance. So what I'm doing today is not because I'm saint or I'm in a high category as Christian. It's a normal response. I was touched by God's love, and what I'm doing now is a normal reaction to why I behave toward you. So when we see that God is the source of all things, God is really the builder. God is the true guardian. God is really the one that provides people to do work from their heart. And He's trying to teach us today about I am the founder. I am the guardian of life. I am the one who gives you the strength so you can work and do what you are doing. God is warning us today is to remember who is behind the scenes. God is warning all of us who is behind the scenes. God is warning us who gets the rewards and remind us about those who are behind the scene. They do not even care about rewards because they get the rewards from God. If feeling failure can lead us into frustration and feeling broken, also overachiever and success can make us feel we are so satisfied and we do not need anybody else, and easily make us forget everything. Think of yourself as the more your ego inflated, the more there is no room beside you. It's like you're pushing everybody away from you, right? The more your ego gets bigger and bigger, there is no room for other people to be seen and to be respected. And we are called today to somehow inflate this ego and know that everything we have in our life is really from God. And if we truly believe in that, then you save yourself from your worst enemy. Do you know who that is? Myself. Your worst enemy is not your partner, is not your neighbor, is not the human that you see outside. Our worst enemy is really us. And nobody on earth can save you from that except God. As the writer is giving us this wonderful message today to say, be careful, my children. Be careful when you are down, but I am there to pick you up. But be careful when you are up. That's a dangerous one. You know, when you are up, you put your head equal to God's head. And God doesn't know what to do with you. When you get higher there, you cannot see God. You cannot hear God. But those who are broken and thrown down, they easily can be picked and they can feel God's love in their heart. So this psalm is simply say that you are my children, and I'm warning you from the feeling of failure and also from the feeling of being overachiever. God is telling us today about when you build a house, when you think about your partners, when God give you your biological kids, God is telling you, He's helping you to raise these children. They are big gifts, but also big responsibility. God is telling us to see and be careful about the source. And that's wonderful to have children with this noise in our church. It's not bothering me. I'm just waiting for them so I can hear them and they can hear me. So it's a wonderful thing that to have them here and to remind us about every time you have this little human being, people will think about it just, okay, it's just a natural way. If a man and woman get together, then the child is a product of a man and a woman. That's just a narrow way of thinking. But from a faith, you see, like, you are going to raise another human being. How are you going to teach them to love? How do you teach them to be a better human being day after day? It's not just the natural scientific interpretation of how children come to the world. God is telling us about the children is a greatest gift, but also is a big responsibility. And those who lived in a different world, we know every day we figure out raising children in the era we live in is more difficult and more difficult. They are a blessing, but with the challenges, with all the technology, with all the knowledge that's flying around, with all the things, any bad idea can go from this corner to the earth and the other corner of the earth in 1 second. So, and we see, so God is saying, as I give you as a gift for you, remember, they are the true cell of building anything. What if you have the best house of the Lord and you have no human being there? What if you have a best city, but you have no human inside it? What are you protecting? What then will be the reason the builder will say, all what I did was in vain, because nobody inside this beautiful house. The guardian who's sitting on the wall to try to protect the city, if no peace and love and harmony, what's the reason? What am I doing here as a guardian? So God is saying that just the true love and care start to raise your own children, because they are the one going to make your house full of joy. They are the one going to make your house that you built, even if it's in a simple way or if it's in a very fancy way, they're going to make it meaningful and joyful. And then you feel like the day when you go to bed as a husband, as a wife, when you go to bed and tired, yes, you are tired physically, but you will enjoy your sleep because you feel you did what you can. You have these angels under the roof of your house that worse that feeling tired and feeling worry about their future and try to secure their education and their love, and be careful about even taking them to the church so they can be raised and learn about God's love. This is the secret God wants you to say, that any buildings, any artificial things will mean nothing without having a loving and caring human being growing. And as you do that to each other, people will track the line. A son or a daughter loved by a father, and a father loved by a father or a mother. And when you track the whole line and you go back, where is the source of this true love? Where is this like electricity that's run, the invisible power that gave us light? And everybody, when they track that, they go back to see that God is the source of all these things. This is the story of the people who were one day, they lived in a foreign land. Do you know how they started? They started when Jacob went out of famine, when they left the desert, came to Egypt. Egypt was a very strong, powerful country at this time. And they came to Egypt literally to be fed, to be saved from the famine. It was a group of people. The Bible tells us just 70 people, all Jacob's kids and wives. This is how the start of the story. Foreign people come to a foreign land, start to be saved from the famine, and somehow start to grow and grow and grow. It's a family that started in Egypt, in a foreign land, and then they moved to be like special because Joseph was the second man in Egypt. And then one time they found themselves, they have the privilege. They almost felt like a citizen with A+ identity as a Jew in Egypt. But then things changed and they became slaves. And then they start to feel frustrated and to start to question, where are you, God? What happened to us? And when they came out of Egypt and start their own story, they start to compare themselves to the other nations. Other nations have system. They have a king. We have no one, and we need one. They start to compare themselves to the other nations. They have religion we even do not know. You remember when Moses the first time went to Mount Sinai and he asked God, when I go and tell people about you, can you please tell me your name? Just imagine how early they were. And the Egyptians have hundreds of names for their gods, and you can name them. The people in Mesopotamia have tons of their names for it. And the simple thing, this guy is even going to advertise for God, and he doesn't even know what kind of name he's going to tell him. So when you see yourself as so little compared to all this civilization around you, all these old nations that they are powerful and strong and organized and full of power, and you are just a little group that's growing, even with your own religion. Whom can I tell them? And God told him, I am that I am. Which means everything can be defined by me, and nothing cannot be defined without me. And God is telling you and me today that I am that I am. Without me in your life will be meaningless. Your life will be empty. Your life will fall apart. Your life will have fake peace, and you will never experience true love. So that's why when they came and built this house, that was a big deal for them. Now we have a God that we know His name and we can tell you His name, and we have a place where everybody can come from everywhere and enjoy His presence. Today, God is telling us we need to learn this lesson that I'm going to live with you today. You need to make the balance between human effort and God's intervention in your heart. You find people who just act like they are gods and they want to do everything and believe there is no God. Good for you. I call you as a good citizen, hard worker. And those who will just try to say, God will do everything, and I'm sitting there, I'm not doing anything. I think God is not happy with these two extremes. I remember one of our famous church fathers said, when you do your sermon, when he was trying to teach his students how to prepare a good sermon, say, when you go and prepare your sermon for your people, prepare your sermon as you are God. And when you deliver your sermon, know that you did nothing without God's help. And that was a very interesting combination of we are called to be a hard worker, not lazy people. We are called to do everything we can do. We are called to research and do my homework. But at the same time, you put your homework, you fold your homework, and say to God, my hard work is nothing without your blessing and without being wrapped in your grace. And this is really the summary of what we should believe and how we should act. Walk and talk and be active in the life, but at the same time know all this wonderful work without God's intervention is nothing, not useful, and not fruitful. And that's what God is telling us. God is the true builder of the city. God is what makes this nation together, regardless of which party you are voting for, which party you care about, But God is really the glue of many good things in the life. And God will keep us with Him as far as we are listening to Him, not to somebody else. As far as we are following His love and care and not anybody else. Amen.
If anyone has any prayer